it is even worse that when we are doing everything we are doing, we are only thinking about building a house and then having a nice car and then going to the trips that we want to go to. George, me and him slept so many times in Makerere University labs. One of the most painful days of working at High People all the time was when our server was off for 3 days.
What were those details?
So one time that night I write a letter to the late Governor Emmanuel Tumsime Mutebile, Professor.
Entrepreneurs, that's a strategy now, yeah?
But with all that, there were no other mechanisms. But all we had to do was to always use what was available. We made every hit between 2009 and 2014 in this country and East Africa.
At your time, why weren't you making money?
That there is not a better way of changing the world than leveraging technology and specifically digitization.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, conversation happens every first Friday of the month. So make sure every first Friday, this is your evening plot, yeah? When your friends are going to visit the bar, make sure for you come and get some knowledge, yeah? Adieu? Great. Innocent, thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
I couldn't say no. Yeah. First of all, why? First of all, the person who delivered the invitation was a woman. So
entrepreneurs, that's a strategy now, yeah?
Yeah, it was. It was very hard to say no to a woman. Like Mercy, my colleague here. Okay, they are both called Mercy. So Mercy is one of us, and she's one of the people here at StartHub. And then Mercy from your side, from Gulu. So all of them were the same people inviting me, and who am I to say no to women, pretty women, like, seriously. Nice. Yeah.
So the masses, thank you so much for getting Innocent here. But a quick one, the first question, who is Innocent?
Innocent is a Ugandan and an African and a global citizen. Sometimes we lie people that we've traveled to every country in the world. Yeah, but we have done a lot of work in spaces of entrepreneurship. I started my entrepreneurship journey when I was about 9 years. And I was able to sell my first 1.5 million when I was 9 years. Yeah. And
what were you selling at that age? I
sold my rabbits to St. Henry's College, Tovu. And well, I've never turned back. Money is really good having. Yeah, but on a daily for the last 20 years of my life, I spend most of my time with people like everyone in this room, entrepreneurs, founders who are passionate about building something for themselves and for our economy and many other economies. And I spend time, first of all, learning from them, because we are living in a very fast-growing economy, especially the digital one. Then secondly, I spend time sharing my little knowledge with them, my experiences. Some of them are even inclusive of how to run a family. I've not been very successful at running mine, but I always tell people about the little things I've learned from my own mistakes. So I literally spend most of my time doing that. But I went and studied a little bit of computer science sometime. I studied music in my early days, and I was in Pearl of Africa Children's Choir in the early days. It was the most popular choir in the country. And then I happened to know almost everyone single superstar in Africa as a friend, yeah. But every other time I want to speak about digital innovation, financial inclusion, FinTech innovation, and women empowerment every single time. Those are things that you'll wake me up and I'll say anytime, because I would want to see a change happen. I would want to see myself contribute to creating a difference in our world today. And I have noticed over the time, along with the team I've worked with for the last 20 years, that there is not a better way of changing the world than leveraging technology and specifically digitization. So anytime you can briefly say I am a digital transformation specialist, that is very passionate about ensuring that we build an ecosystem where founders, entrepreneurs are able to meet their dreams and serve millions of lives, and in the end build an inclusive economy that includes and benefits everyone. That is basically means so many words. Yeah.
So Innocent, what comes to my mind when you're telling your story is how do you shift from selling rabbits to talking about digital and then fintech and then innovation?
Well, my rabbits is a business that I even want to go back to right now. So there's not been a shift. I want to go back to that real content. You see, when we're speaking toward content, no one is telling us that farming is all content. No one is telling us that art is all content that we can leverage. And even the knowledge that people harbor in their minds is a lot of content. So, but I happen to be born to a teacher, actually two teachers. My father was a head teacher for 35 years. And he happens to be one of the first people to buy a computer, a personal computer. So he used to, is it called a wardrobe or what? Where they keep clothes, I don't know. Wardrobe, yeah. So he happened to hide it in and lock it in the wardrobe all the time. And we could sneak in their bedroom and see if we can touch the keyboard. And then switch it on, and that blue screen, many of the people here who are younger never saw that big machine, and very heavy, and it was cream in color, and I really loved being a part of that conversation. Then I was also studying from one of the only schools that had computers in the early days in 1997. Molly and Paul was the only school I knew that had computers, and we had about 3 of them. One for the director, one for his wife, and another for the secretary and stroke bursar. And there was nothing that was as pretty as knowing how to type. You people don't know here who have phones. Yeah, there was nothing close to being able to type, not using a typewriter, because my mother was a senior woman and a deputy in school for 18 years, so she had a typewriter. But it was very hectic. I'm sure if anyone here who ever used the typewriter, I am alone. Yeah, okay, we are together. We are the oldest in this room. So it was now outdated. Like the computer was a fancy way of getting things into a screen that lights up, and then before you know it is printable somewhere. So, and then in the same space, our uncle, who happens to be a cybersecurity specialist, in 1997 actually, end of 1997, gets a scholarship at the London School of Economics. He had done library and information science. Then he goes there to study, to have a master's in information technology and cybersecurity. And I'm like, okay. And I was imagining the kind of life he was going to live, being a specialist on things that they are told us can scan our stomachs and show us everything underneath, on things that they told us would detect thieves. The moment a thief is around somewhere, a computer can know someone is a thief. I mean, those are the stories that were used to sell computers back in the days. And those who are very old, like me in 2000, you remember the 2000 Millennium Challenge, where we were told every computer in the world was going to burst and they will not work again. Did anyone ever hear about that? Yeah, so you're very young.
Many of these guys were born after 2000.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, so we had you heard about it, right? Oh, okay, so in 2000, we were told that computers would not work after that year. So actually in Uganda there is a song that was called the Millennium Song. It features Juliana, the late Poker Pharaoh, who. So sometimes you even get to wonder how my sister Juliana, how old she is, because she was in the song. And I mean, it was so many people, so many of us stars then. I don't remember, Baby Cool wasn't there, but Steve Jean was, and many others. And then everyone had been told that whoever has a computer, I think we had like 500 pieces in the country, they were not going to work. And I didn't sleep on the midnight of 31st December 2000. I'm like, I want to see our computer burst because we had one at home. And for some reason, it didn't. I'm like, okay, maybe it is not yet a New Year everywhere in the world. Because we're told in Sydney and some other places, when you are in Washington, they're just waking up. Yeah? I'm like, okay, let's wait for another 24 hours. And my friend, that computer is still at home up to today. So, to cut the long story short, I was very, very interested in seeing how much I could do using the computer. And the last bit was my elder brother, who happens to be the main founder of High People. For some reason, he had passed his senior 6, and someone wanted to take him back to senior 5 because he didn't get 25. And because he had got 8 in senior 4 and 5 in P7, they thought he must get 24 or 25. So he was going to go back. And then Makerere University introduces computer science as a course. And then I have never looked back. From the time when he joined computer science, I said now computer is the thing. I used to admire being a pilot because it had something to do with a computer and a dashboard. I'm like, no. Now this is the way. And I still do rare rabbits. Yeah.
Interesting. I think when we're networking, I talked to someone who also rears chicken. She's over there. So
yeah.
Networking could start from there. But anyway, then we move to, you've talked about your brother being one of the founders of High People. I want us to jump into that conversation. I've listened to, I think now there are 14 episodes where you've been talking about the chronicles of High People.
Yeah.
I've actually listened to all of them. I think if there is an award, you should give me one. But then
I'm going to give you the first ticket to the 13th High People Music Awards.
Thank you so much.
You're taking that one. If you have a girlfriend and you can tell us her name, then we give you a second one for your girlfriend. Yeah. If you can't say her name, we are not.
Guys, anyone wants to volunteer? Yeah, I have a volunteer who wants to be my girlfriend for 2
Yeah. So.
Okay, but anyway, I want us to talk about then how High People comes into the picture.
Yes.
You've shared your story and your passion for computers, but then how does High People then come into the picture?
Yeah, so I spent most of 2003, 4, and 5 in a new school, and we didn't have a computer. It was very local then. I'd left Shark, and my brother John Mark was busy completing his bachelor's. So I kept on learning things like SPSS, Epidata, Epinfo, and the likes. So I could help him do his gigs, come back home, do the entry of data and the likes. And then we were always asking ourselves, what is that one thing we can do to employ ourselves? The first thing was really we wanted to employ ourselves. That was the first thing. Then, because of the other story of our uncle, he gets us introduced to a number of things that are happening around the globe. And we thought we could use the internet to solve a number of problems. So as early as November 2004, we began thinking of creating an amazing online solution for social networking. And that's something gets a name that is not written as the High People that is on my chart, but as High People of the other people. And we spent from that time up to 2007 building, trying to do what we called the first ever social networking platform around the continent, which was, and we were learning and learning and relearning, having so many bugs to fix. And somehow, as of March 2007, we really had something that could make sense to everyone, and we went online around that time. And John Mark was by that time working in Bank of Uganda as well. For me, I was in my senior 6. But every weekend, because I was the head boy, I had a chance to leave school, come back home, and work on something. And I was really more of the marketing guy. So I used to boast for being a marketing executive. I don't know whether you guys are still proud of such a role, but I was very, very proud of being one. So we spent time. I remember we had a number of activities. I was a leader of a students association in Wakiso district, and I had an opportunity to meet so many head boys, head prefects, and head girls, and somehow market our product. I was also a chairperson of the Writers Club and the chairperson of the Debating Club. So I had an opportunity to market high people in the early days. So whenever I could go home, we could go to Wandegea, print a few posters on these our normal papers, our efforts, take them to school, pin them in the notes board. No one could say no to me because I am the one who had the key. Then I was in charge, and then I could also get to other places and also our network of leaders, fellow leaders, and ask them to promote our brand. The moment we were done with our not PLE, that was USCE, right? Yeah, I was like, now freedom has come. And for me, freedom started that time. From that moment, I've felt so free living in this world because I had wasted a lot of my time in school. Not because school is not important, but because I wasn't supposed to be in such a school that is like prison. So I started working, doing work now. And the first thing I proposed to the other co-founders, because there were about 9 of them by that time, and almost all of them left me to run the organization after a year because they had either kids to buy milk for, or they had girlfriends who needed to go out and they couldn't spend their weekends on high people. That was silly to them by that time. So I spent most of the time trying to interest a few of my friends that had crowds they could pull to our brand. And one among them was Kid Fox. I don't know whether someone here is old enough to know Kid Fox. If you're not, it is okay, please. And if you don't feel like you want to be old, don't say you knew him. It is also okay. So I spent a lot of time. Bebe Cool is a friend of mine that I met in 2000. Bobby Wine is a friend of mine that I also met in 2000. Navio is like family to me. And I mean, a few others that were peers. And I interested them in our cause of building a social entertainment platform. And before we knew, high people, over a period of 2 years, like you watched in the Chronicles, I don't think there has been any other social network anywhere in Africa that has ever had 50,000 subscribers. But before we knew, we had 50,000 plus subscribers from different universities, especially around Africa, from Pretoria, and then a few other Ugandans that had gone in, I don't know whether Iran is diaspora, but if it is, then somewhere in Iran. But of course, our biggest base by then was in Europe. We were really iterating and changing a lot of things every other day. For me, high people became my main job. And because I needed to learn a little bit more about computer, I had to go to school again. So when I joined Makerere, I went to study, and then I was given a job to teach. So things changed a little bit. And when they changed, I had to leave Makerere and join another university because whatever they were teaching me, I had decided earlier than every one of my peers. So, but for me, I was teaching Makerere because I wanted free internet, really, and I couldn't afford to have a laptop. So, and then there were no dongos. By the time we used to call them dongos. You know what a dongo is? Yeah, modems. Okay. yeah. So the dongos were very expensive. So because they were expensive, we had to use what we have to get what we wanted. I wanted internet every day because we were uploading a lot of heavy content, music for every musician around East Africa. And the only way you can upload this music is in Makerere or at Bank of Uganda, because Bank of Uganda had bandwidth of about 5G Makerere Dicts had the same. But it cannot be uploaded during the day because it gets cut down, and we're the ones who are behind the doing of the cutting down of the speeds. So it was really us who were fading us by that time. And we're like, okay, we have to sleep in Makerere many times. I wanted to come with my colleague. My colleague, George, me and him slept so many times in Makerere University labs. And it was illegal, so we had to bribe the askaris. No one is supposed to be locked in the university. What if it burned? So we could give him maybe some 3K, 5K, depending on what we have, and then sleep in the labs. And then over the night, you upload all the content. I mean, it was very easy, like within an hour, you're done, but no one can open for you. So you have to sleep in the lab. And for about 4 years from that time, we were always doing the same thing. We go to Bigo in one day. I'm not sure if you know him, because by the time most of you went to university, the small gate was not there anymore. Yeah? I mean, go collect content. We have to buy it from there. For a few musicians who are our friends, you have to ask them to bring it and maybe support in making sure they meet part of the bill. And then for a few producers of videos, we got into collaborations and told them, if you want to make a hit around East Africa, make sure we have your song before anyone. Our social network is working very well. We have more than 50,000 people that want to listen to local content from East Africa. But then whatever we make a hit in our space becomes a hit on every radio and every TV. So make sure we are the ones who have it first. And yeah, I mean, for most of the time, that's what was happening.
Was that true, or it was actually a pitch, the part of making a hit?
No, it wasn't a pitch. Well, we would love to tell those beautiful stories as well, but we made every hit between 2009 and 2014 in this country and East Africa. And up to today, if I really want a song to be a hit, I will make it a hit. I remember in 2013, we decided to make Shiba a superstar. As in, we sat with my team and our board, and we said we should have at least one female artist that can live for a long time at the top of the game without being corrupt about anything, but create an ecosystem that can help them become who they want to become. And we did it. And she doesn't know up to today. As in, she's my friend. We've not talked for 5 years. But I am very sure of what we did to make her the Shiba she is today. Why? Because we had a conversation with her, for example, in 2012. I think it was February, no, 2013 February, on the 7th of February. She calls me and tells me, my name is Shiba, and I had her number. She didn't know. And then she tells me, I am a musician. I was not nominated in the High People Music Awards, but I want to have a chance to come and see how stars look like. Maybe I can learn from them. Now that line for me was a life changer. When I heard that, I knew it was our responsibility to support such a human being. And then I had to tell my colleagues that Shiba called me, she told me this, and I've given her tickets to come and attend. And well, she came in. And when she came, well, she came and saw the winners, and she wasn't nominated. And the next year, she really did a number of songs, but none of them was really on top of the charts. None of them was hitting. So we go back to our drawing board, and I tell everyone, this should be a secret, but I can say it because it is facts. So I tell everyone, this lady has a winner's attitude, and we have capacity to make her the winner she wants to become. And we have the tools. So can we employ them? And everyone asks me, which tools do you have? Are you going to use our little money to help her? Yeah. I'm like, no, we don't need to use the money. We have the most prominent music charts in the region. We have, whether it means ensuring the algorithm is in favor of how we are going to do that, whether it means seeing her know that her effort is not wasted, then we should do that. So in the awards that happened on the 7th of Feb 2014, Shiba was nominated 13 times. And that was the beginning of her success story. She came, I think she won once or twice, yeah. But from that time up to today, it's reason why you talk about her. But why we were intentional about saying we actually have the power to build someone, so we should do it. The same way when we are at that hub and we find a good story here and we feel we can fight for it, why not carry the same conversation? So, I mean, I would say that for the whole year because it's been bits and pieces of the same story being redone every other time, making some mistakes sometimes, yeah. And then not forgetting that even when you're offering such assistance to someone, maybe they don't need it. Maybe they don't care, you give it to them. So you have to have an intention. So ours was to say, can we build the industry? Because for the past years of the industry, from about 1997, I had known Basude Cafero personally, yeah. They, none of, yeah, I'm very old, guys. So, yeah, actually, Basude and Cafero knew me by name, as in, I could interact with them at several occasions. So I had seen there was a lot of inconsistency. Our very own friends, the likes of Kid Fox, Bebe Cool, Bobby Wine, were very inconsistent. So none of them, apart from living along the battle lines of the politics you all know about, none of them could sustain using music for a long time. Yet they were very talented. Yet they had the energy and all it takes. When I come back here another time, I'll tell you about the battles and what engineered them. But at least we wanted to have, I mean, the Julianas were not that consistent, Irene Nambiru, Angela's, and not every one of them was, Peter Miles, none of them was consistent. And we were like, this is a problem. We are trying to build a prototype for digitization of our arts. We should have a story that we can talk about every year. And there is one, of course, that is one of them, but there are many others we could talk about. So, you imagine with all that, yeah, we were from that question where I asked, how does it relate with the founders? So the founders really became me most of the time. It became Nicholas, my young brother, and became many of the team members that are partners, and many of them we've worked with for about 19 years, 15. I think the person we worked with for the least years is 10 years. Yeah.
Interesting. So, guys, just in case you want a career transition to music, yeah, now you know who to talk to. If you want to become a hit. But then you talk about building the product and you make it sound so easy. However, I want us to dive back into building this particular platform. Were there times where it became super hard? Because I think the resources were not in abundance like we have today. You had to sleep in labs, but then were there particular moments where it became really tricky building this platform? I understand it was the first of the kind in East Africa. How was it really coming up with this? And then also marketing it to 50,000 people. What were those details?
Well, thank you, Derek. Building a platform like High People can never be easy. It was very, very disturbing for us. I will start with a simple scenario of when we needed to have 6 computers, just 6 of them. I don't know how many we have here at StartHub, but we wanted to have 6 computers, and I moved to every bank. We had 11 commercial banks by then, and they all told me I should have collateral, a title, land title that is developed. But up to today, I don't own a basket of soil in Kampala. Yeah, as in, up to today, I do not. This is almost 17 years later. So we moved to all of them and I told them, we have something really, really interesting that can change this ecosystem, but we need tools. We have an office, we have our rent paid up to the next year, but people come and sit all waiting for one computer. And they all told me, go to your mother if you don't have collateral, yeah. And indeed, we went to our mother. So one day, one day I was seated somewhere in Makerere University after teaching my classes, very hungry. I hadn't had a meal for a whole day.
A question, how much was a computer at the time?
Computers by that time, they were about 2 million by that time. But 2 million of that time, Yeah, because exactly it was millions indeed. Because cars used to cost 5, 6 million. So you can imagine a laptop was half of a car. Yeah. So we, of course, we are in an ecosystem of academia and a number of professors and other people in the same space. And maybe we hoped we could use that network to find a reasonable way of getting some credit, but we couldn't. So one time, that night, I write a letter to the late Governor Emmanuel Tumsime Mutebile, professor, telling him that your banking system is a failure. It is a joke. It can't help us. You should help us. Give me a loan, and so that we can get computers. And when I write the letter, I forget about it. So time goes by, almost a year later. One day, I am teaching in Makere, and Nicholas, who is our chief operations, calls me and tells me, "Man, who did you rob?" And I'm like, "What is the problem? I've never robbed anyone." And he's like, "There are 4 cars here. Everyone is in a suit. They are looking for you." And I'm like, "But did I rob anyone?" Then he's like, "They are looking for you. They say they are from Bank of Uganda." So by that time, we used to respect these numbers that start with 041, 041. You remember those numbers. Nowadays, we don't respect them that much. But by that time, no, as founders, I know we don't respect them. You don't give a damn. They have not helped you in any way you want to run your business. But those days, we used to respect them. Now, someone calls me and it's a lady called, I think, Margaret. And then, "Hi, Mr. Kawooya. My name is Margaret, and I don't remember what her position was, but the governor has instructed me to call you, and he wants to see you." You guys, have you ever been called by a governor? So I'm like, what an honor. I had about 3 good shots in my life, and I wish we had visuals here, and I had the pictures. I would show you one of those shots, or those ones that had the white collar and the color below is different. Yeah. So I have to go back to Chikoni, to Kawala, and pick something else, and then move to Bank of Uganda. So I had the privilege of meeting the great man that controls our money. And when I met him, for a few minutes, I found him standing because he was leaving his office. And he's like, "Innocent, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm okay, Professor. Who told you to write to us?" I'm like, "Nobody. I moved to every bank and no one was helping me." So like, okay, talk to these people. He left me with some people. They are going to help you. So because we were founders and we were very ignorant, I signed so many papers that day. And one of them had a figure 70 million. And another had 7 computers. And I signed everything. They told me, sign here, and we have never received those computers. Yeah, so, I mean, challenges. You asked what did it look like. So we have never received them, but I still pride in the fact that the late governor honored our letter, responded to it in writing, looked out for me, and then told me briefly in those few minutes when we met what he thought. And from that time, something changed about loans for startups. From that time, I remember, but I've never gotten one still from Uganda because I don't qualify. I don't have a salary. So, but that was one bit, talking challenges. But we had servers. Hosting your platform in a dedicated server by that time costed between $600 and $1,500. And you know what that money is, even today. It's a lot of money. And one of the most painful days of working at High People all the time was when our server was off for 3 days. And we are losing traffic. We had a free email to SMS platform that processed more than 1.5 million SMSs in 1 year. So we treasured it even if we didn't make any money from it. So every time when we could go off, I could feel so bad. But bad even for many other reasons. We wanted to speak about FinTech. And by then, there was only one bank that had cards that could pay online. So all the time we had to bank our money onto another account of our uncle in London, and then he pays for our servers. So whenever we could go offline, I could get sick, as in very sick. I feel very disturbed. I feel like we are losing, especially when you're watching the back end and you know people are interacting. So you're losing a lot of traffic. Of course, there was some little money from Google Ads and AdSense for that matter. So it was very painful. So all the time we kept on reducing the size of our server. That to some point we had to go for a VPS. Why? Because we had a very useful innovation, but it wasn't making money. And it wasn't yet appreciated by those who would pay for it. Apart from a few investors who wanted to buy us out of the market, because they had intentions of taking out a high people and build their own. So they only wanted to buy us to take out what we had already done. So those were very painful times. I remember one very painful and challenging technical time was when we were having a content delivery network issue. By that time, save for you who are Gen Z who have smartphones, you take a selfie and then you have it on your profile immediately. By that time, people could go to cafes and scan their pictures that they have at home and then upload them as profile pictures. So you can imagine how heavy they were. You can imagine how hard it was to have a machine, an algorithm that resizes them and keeps them very accurate so that you have their faces. So one time I remember at night, myself and our chairman, John Mark, were seated and trying to see how we resize more than 70,000 pictures to have uniform profile pictures. He tried everything, but I had some experience working with many students, not because he didn't have, but I had very localized multimedia experience. So I told him, can we try Picture Manager? You remember Picture Manager? Yeah. So I told him we can resize all these pictures with Picture Manager at once. So he's like, how? I told him, no way. There is a way of coding it in a very basic way. Give it instruction, instruct it where you want. You want faces. I mean, people are talking AI today, but AI has been a conversation for a long time. Yeah. So, and you know what happened? Somehow the instruction works. Before we know, we have saved all the 70,000 plus pictures in their same file names. Nothing has been replaced, nothing has been duplicated. And all of them have been saved in the size 160 by 160 pixels. And if I was a drinker, that day I was going to run so drunk. It was my biggest achievement being at High People. It was my biggest effort ever. Forget all the things I had done. And all we had to do is drag and drop onto the server. I mean, go to your FTP, drop everything there, and then say, we did it. So this saved a lot of our bandwidth consumption. It saved and improved the user experience. So no one now found it very hard to download or check a profile, because before the pictures were very heavy. But with all that, there were no other mechanisms. But all we had to do was to always use what was available. You have that one Picture Manager of yours. Can you use it? You have Photoshop. It is very manual. So we tried Photoshop. We tried, I'm forgetting the other, GIF. The GIF builder, there was another, Fireworks. It was called Fireworks. We tried Fireworks and none of them could give us a solution. So with all that, but for me it was university. I was learning things that I wouldn't learn anywhere in college. I was getting experience hands-on. I was given a chance to cause problems for our senior developers. Sometimes they could let me run some scripts by myself and then I mess up things and then I tell them they're not working. And that's all I could always say. I couldn't tell them I've failed or I've messed them up. I tell them things are not working. So they come back and get things done. Yeah.
Interesting. A part of me thinks that the reason you ventured into the fintech space was your frustration with banks, but we'll come back to that a bit later. You did mention that you had a very useful platform, but it wasn't making money, which I do understand is a problem with very many developers even today. They develop a lot of stuff and they never get any money out of it. At your time, why weren't you making money when you had all those users? What was the challenge?
Thank you, Derek. So we had 50,000 users, and none of them had a card. Yeah. As in, none of them can pay you. We had 50,000 users plus. Actually, by 2010, we had more than 75,000. But none of them had mobile money. The aggregators that were existing by that time, FutureLink, Pegasus, Yo Uganda, and a few others, were still trying to get business to make them money to sustain themselves. So that is when we start paying for water using bank or mobile money. Otherwise, before we had to line up in a bank. Now we're starting to find meaningful ways of collecting money. Now for us, we could collect money from people subscribing, but then there was Facebook. It was free now. There was Twitter coming in. It was free. MySpace was falling down, but it was free. High Five had gone out, but it was free. There was Skype. You know Skype. YouTube was coming up. It was free. So tell me, who could you charge? Yeah, who could you charge by that time? Rather than ensuring you use what you have to build your brand authenticity and awareness. All these people come in. We've been around, but we didn't have money. Like, I didn't want to say we were poor, but we didn't have money. So all these guys come in with a muscle of investment. So they can pay for vacuum tubes. They can have servers that can host 1 billion people. And then yours is struggling with bandwidth of 100,000 people. I mean, you're being a joker. So we're like, okay, but then we had the goal of building ecosystems like the music industry. So we're like, are we going to give up on the big dream, or can we find ways of coexisting? So that is when we begin integrations. I mean, every other platform that is successful came with a plugin, widgets, and the likes. So we say, let's find ways of creating some very awesome programming that integrates usage. So there was a login widget. It was probably one of the most popular. So because you've been here, and then Facebook comes in and then becomes more authentic than you. So you have to use a widget that either allows someone to log in with their Yahoo Mail, with their Gmail, which we used to call Google, with their Hotmail, Rocket Mail, or can use Facebook to log in. And now you're not in business anymore. You can be sure. Yes, you can have these users coming to you, but then it is easier that someone now can cost them if they want. But then it is helping us create an ecosystem for our creatives at that time. And for us, the value that comes out of the creative industry is more important than high people getting the money. But we had some value we offered to everyone that no one has offered up to today. For instance, no single player in entertainment, in social entertainment, has had the database of music that we had up to today. No one. Why? We spent a lot of time, a lot of money collecting music from 1950s up to date. Yeah. So no one has it up to today. But high people is no longer interested in getting rights from musicians. They are very hypocritical. They will sign with high people today. The next day they sign with Mercy. The next day they are signing with Derek. The next day you are in trouble. So you are in the news for being a thug who actually signed with people. So there is a model that we believed even up today could still make us money. But we had to change a little bit of our business plan and then go into another direction of being a social impact firm that doesn't really look at the music of the musicians to make money, but rather look at building an ecosystem where we actually benefit from as well.
Interesting. So you brought in the aspect of diversifying. Now you're leaving the platform. You want to include a couple of other things, which brings me to the fintech side. How do you then come into financial or digital inclusion, and how do you build all these other products apart from the initial platform?
Yeah, well, like I said, we had exposure with our uncle. So financial inclusion was part of our early conversations. But like I said, we're advocating for banks to have credit cards. Who has a credit card here that I can give you a ticket to the High People Music Awards? Credit, not debit. Yeah, who has a credit card here? Please, if you have it, you have your ticket. Who has a credit card here? Okay. I will tell you in simple terms. For people who travel a lot, they will tell you a credit card also comes supplementary with an allowance of some money you can borrow without walking into a bank. You can use some limit, maybe $1,000, 2,000. So I'm sure most of us here have debit cards, which we call our ATM cards, either powered by MasterCard, Visa, or Kawooya. There was nothing like that. And at the top of our minds, we knew that our efforts in promoting digitization would be a game changer in digital innovation, in financial inclusion. And we were happy to be a part of the conversation that kickstarted M-Pesa. So the gentlemen like Nick Hughes, Dr. Warren Curry, Michael Joseph, Dr. Warren was a friend to us. So we had exposure to conversations in the space. And then we also had exposure to regulators who are hearing about the things that are happening in Nairobi. People are starting to move money with SMS. So everyone is why they are going to steal money. They send you an SMS and you receive money. Yet we're used to signing so many papers. So we thought that ultimately our role of getting people online was not just to make money. It was to create a user experience that is friendly to them and interests them to use digitization and especially internet. And the ISPs, Infocom, Celtel, no, it was Celtel by that time, MTA, they were only promoting internet for email. Only. And maybe a little bit for banking. But who of us knows what internet is used in banking? Do we know? That someone knows the real back end? So they were promoting for those who could afford. And it was typically a good for people who could afford to use internet to send an email. And then they were not creating any local use case. And we thought that the easiest way to promote, and I'm sure all of us can bear witness now, with the advent of the TikToks, the Instagrams of this world, YouTube, not leaving any of them, someone can agree with us that our approach of using social entertainment and music specifically was the best way to promote usage of internet. Before we knew, people were very interested. I mean, someone is listening to music and is dedicating a song to a nice lady that they want to have a conversation with. And it doesn't stop there. So you watch the Chronicles, and I mentioned there are many relationships I know that were created from high people. And they are still living, yeah? They got married and decently, and they are happily living, yeah? Because we were creating a place that could interest people to use internet differently. I mean, I cannot list how many youth have started initiatives because of what they saw us doing across the continent. But even when I can't count them, I am very excited to celebrate what we see happening. I'm excited to see people using TikTok in a different way. I'm excited to see founders finding new ways of marketing your products, because being on UBC back in the days, I remember Ralph Sanjan hosted me on UBC in 2009 for the first time. I called my mom, I called my dad. It's only Camila that I didn't call because I didn't know her by then. But I called everyone that I wanted to know I am important. Yeah. So I called all of them and told them, guys, I remember engineer by Nomgisha and Makere and Professor Baliam Leva. I told him I'm going to be on you, and I think Professor hadn't been on UBC before. It was UTV by then. And I told them, guys, I'm going to be speaking about high people. And today, we have so many TVs, we can create 100 of them from here. Every one of us here can have a TV online and broadcast themselves. Now, those use cases all started as a result of people who could see Innocent, and they're like, oh yeah, Inakachi. What can he do? That one. Is he the one you told us? I thought he was tall. Very tall. I thought he was old, yeah? So, very many peers started believing in creating innovations for themselves. Very many of them started creating micro businesses on internet. Some are basically using existing tools like YouTube, so they are managing content for other people, organizations. I'm sure you know about so many social media managers. That bubble is one we are very, very proud of because it created jobs in every one of the top 1,000 tax-paying companies in the country and East Africa. Why? We forced them to do that. We knew we had to do some things to show them if you're not on social media, you are a joker. So one time, we ran a ranking of the top 1,000 taxpayers and how they embrace digitization. And then more than 70% of them didn't have websites. We were abused. People called and scared us. Every threat was thrown to us, and we told them, you're being jokers, guys. You pay more than 100 million in taxes, and you cannot have a website. Seriously. And the next thing we saw over the next 3 years, jobs, departments of social media, digital, depending on the size of the company. And I don't know how many websites were created from that time. We pride in that up to today, and it will never go away. I don't know, maybe about 50 years from now, because no matter how beautiful AI is, AI will not manage anyone's account. That is not going to happen. Why? Because as we use our AI, people are going to learn how AI works. So people are going to demand for user experience. I want to deal with a person, not your tool, yeah? People are going to demand for convenience beyond convenience. So you're telling me the AI tool is going to deliver food, and the food comes, and then I cannot tell them, can I give you a tip? So I don't want that. Yeah, I want one that I can give a tip. So you can imagine, Derek, it's very many long stories.
Okay, which also brings me to some of the work you've actually done in the fintech space. I've seen 40 days of 40 fintechs and also a bit of other things that you've been doing in the space. Maybe you could just enlighten us on the work you've been doing in financial inclusion, especially in the digital realm.
Okay. So, especially in the digital realms, there's nothing I have done without digital. So there's nothing Hype has done that is not digital. But I would also request you, Derek, if you don't mind, if anyone here wants to add something before we continue.
I think we are hiding much in disclosure, but allow me to tell you that by 1999, I struggled to have a computer. I spent a night and finished a flask of coffee when I've been trying to fix something, just a computer to be able to display on a VGA. So allow me to jump straight to the challenge, which Innocent was, you asked Innocent. What was the challenge? What was the labor? I don't know if I have anything I've invented or supported, but I'm humble, working in digital space, passionate about the digital skills. I do try my best to see what can happen. So Derek touched a point which we need to expand slightly bigger. The digital inclusion is a word, it's a keyword, but the practice of it is access. We talked about Visa card, no, credit card, we've been tempted to put up the hands. Actually, that's the mistake. Even our policymakers, up to now, they don't know the difference between a credit card, a debit card. They don't even understand the common words which are now coming in the digital, some maybe 15 years back, push and pull. Push and pull is the way to push money to your account or to pull the information from your account. It was a challenge when technology was not enabling this chance. And allow me to say that one of the common causes I'm seeing, we didn't get this type of setup of people discussing and disclosing the labor, the problem we are getting. Up to now, We are here. You are all going to different places. Allow me to give you a challenge you can work around. Yes, the likely way is safe border, because the public transport, you don't have estimated time arrival. You don't know which signpost you stand to pick which bus. But technology allows that, and it's a challenge we have in terms of our life forever. Simply why? Because our decisions have not mapped the bus station. We have not defined the routes for the buses. We have not regulated and regulated or guided what could be done. So there are many loopholes which are there. However, in the class, we have all access to anybody. We read the same books. He talked about the time he spent in the lab. It's unfortunate to hear that a university closes and still those are long policies. I share the same label with him. I've spent, I think, all my time on the campus, sleeping only 2 hours in the bed, and I'm going to shower and I'm tired. I just nap slightly, but most of the time I was in the lab. So what is required on what we should think far on our brain? I humbly request you, I don't know your age group, to reflect back. Don't think of the problem of what you're seeing. He talked about the media and the social content and the entertainment. But I want you to reflect back on all news you're getting, which are not necessarily helping you to where you're going, and call it by the way, leave it, ignore it, and think of what problem can you solve in the community. When you think of the problem you can solve in the community, it will push you to go forward. Enabling your dreams, sorry to say, no one will do it. It's your labor. He talked about it, how technology up to now. Thank you for ranking the websites. I'm not asking the question. Let me tell you. Up to now, it's not clear who have the skills to create the digital content. Even the digital skills are still allow me to call it miscategorized. I ask this question commonly. People tell me to write in Word, Excel. Or up to now, adverts are requesting people to know Word and Excel. I don't know what we use it for, as opposed to the digital skills, to the digital communication. So I don't want to hijack the show. So that's the few things I can add in maybe in the question, and as and other supplementary will add. And maybe to conclude with one, also the gap which we had for a long time, this type of setting was not there. So thanks to the technology and inclusion and people opening up and loving us in Uganda, accepting like Lola and other people, accepting to come and share and create this type of setting. Because these are limited things we don't have. Even some of our parents, they can't allow us to sit in their good gardens to discuss this. So there's still a problem of the mindset. And that's the challenge we are having, and we might have. Your future parents, I kindly and humbly request you that you open up your doors to have inclusive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Derek, about the things we're doing, you see, I always want to come in a space like this and not do a lot of marketing for what we do. And I always sometimes fail to find the right language, but I hope I'll find an easier way of talking about the initiatives we run at High People under the High People Inclusive One program. So we have an Inclusive One program, and where we are trying so much to include everyone. It is really our humble prayer every time that we don't fail on creating an opportunity for everyone. I've been discussing with Matt and Laura about how much it is a shame. I was a neighbor here. I used to sleep just 100 meters, no, actually 50 meters from here in 2016, 15, 14. And I've never come to StartHub face to face until today. So it's a shame, like it's a big shame and embarrassing for all of us, especially leaders, starting with myself. But it is even worse that when we are doing everything we are doing, we are only thinking about building a house and then having a nice car and then going to the trips that we want to go to. And then forgetting, maybe if you're not a parent now, you are going to be one. But it's even more challenging when you look at what we call the Inclusive One program in aspects of, are we preaching, are we doing what we preach? Are we practicing? Collaboration, to start with. Collaboration meaning finding the simplest, meaningful ways of supporting each other. But supporting doesn't call for me giving anyone a handout or anything. Sometimes it starts by having a conversation. I'm sure you noticed in the first months of the year people dying of mental challenges, you remember? Because someone even doesn't even have someone to talk to as a founder. So when they wake up and they think everything is gone, they don't know there's been an innocent who has had challenges every year, and I can never think of leaving my daughters and sons. So under the High People Include Everyone program, we have initiatives like the Digital and Financial Inclusion Summit, the Digital Impact Awards Africa, which has been running, both have been running for the last 11 years. We have the 40 Days for the FinTechs initiative. It is run for the 5th year. This year we have the Women in FinTech Hackathon, the Summit and Incubator. We have the Schools Financial Inclusion Challenge. And now that I was elected as the chair for gender inclusive finance for Bank of Uganda, we are now having a different lens of activity. So we're having a national responsibility. We're also doing some work with COMESA. All these are opportunities for founders like everyone here. And why are they opportunities? Is because unless if we fail to find some resources, I mean funding to run them, but we've been blessed to have partners, very generous partners like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the moment we have support from them, we want everyone here to have a chance to participate. Pro bono, as in any day, anytime. We just need to know you are from StartHub and you have access. Yeah, we want to have people who are trying to solve problems that they don't know yet. You see, sometimes someone wants to solve a problem of a family that wants to divorce, and then they think they are fighting because someone is cheating, yet they sleep hungry. And those are two different problems. Yeah. So one is a poverty issue, and we are putting it to a totally different conversation. So we are trying to find very meaningful, simple ways. So they know very well that we have a free platform for creating awareness and visibility for any fintech. Year in, year out. We will spend as much as we can because we work with the best crew in the country, the biggest award winners to film, but we are proud to say we can add something to the conversation of a fintech like him and any other. We are creating new programs of adding visibility for those who can't fit in 40 days for the fintechs, who can't fit in Women in FinTech, and say we can create a simple video for you talking about your product for 3 minutes for free. Why? We lose nothing creating it. But if it ever makes sense for your business, we shall always be proud. So every single day of our lives, we have those programs running. On the other side, we have programs like the Music Awards. We have a very, very strong venture of ours in film. And our film recently won Best Film at the Megaflix Awards in the US. We have the best film, and I'm the only actor that is seen on face. So you can call me a film star, yeah, if you wish, yeah. I mean, we have initiatives like that. We are big in healthcare. Our telemedicine service was the first ever telemedicine service in Uganda. And when I say first, I don't mean to insult anyone, but it is the only truth that by 2009 we had built My Doctor. And on record, My Doctor won a grant of $10,000 in India at a competition called Indie Africa. But we ate the money. Yeah. We did eat the money because myself and John Mark, none of us was a doctor. So we had to use the money. None of us was a doctor up to today. So we had to use the money to pay for our rent. Yeah. And it was me who actually decided, because John Mark was living in Bridge in Belgium, in Brussels, yeah. So for me, I told him, because we have won, yeah, and because it is our money and because it is on our account, we are proudly going to pay for our rent. And we ate the money. Guys, it was fun eating money, free money. The first free money we got. So after that time, we kept on winning almost every challenge. The Orange Africa challenges, the ITU challenges, any other. And then we failed for so many other Rockefeller challenges because we didn't give them attention. We thought we could use the same content. You come from this challenge, so one time we submitted in a challenge with different naming. We are submitting to Rockefeller, and then there is Indie Africa. Yeah, so, I mean, all the things happening in the space. And so my doctor has since 2009 been that idea. I remember in the room where we won, there were doctors. I see them in Uganda. They are running a telemedicine service later, years later. I will not mention them. But they were doctors and they had a very, very different idea. Nothing close to digital health, nothing close to telemedicine. And for us, we were thinking we can create a localized African healthcare community where healthcare providers, caretakers, professionals, specialists, governments, and all the likes can meet and solve problems affordably, but also create a base of information to solve our healthcare challenges for a long time. So, I mean, all those things we do every other time. And we are now getting on a new challenge of onboarding our first 1 million clients for my doctor. So that is what we're doing. And we are welcome to everyone who can add a conversation to each of them.
Interesting. We are almost coming close to the end of this conversation.
Yeah.
But before we go very far, you are in a space where you've interacted with very many guys dealing or who are in the fintech space. You've been in the country doing this for quite a while now. 14 years? 14
FinTech.
years? The time you've been building high people and
we're
everything.
making 20 years.
20
year.
years.
Yeah.
20 years, guys.
We are the oldest digital brand in the space.
Guys,
So, yeah.
this deserves a round of applause. 20 years of doing the same work, yeah? That's amazing. But then I would want you to maybe highlight a bit on the landscape in the fintech space. When it comes to policy, is the policy really pro-inclusion? And then also the attitude in the market. How are people reacting to some of these things? Because I think as Africa, we are so proud of mobile money, but I think there are very many things we are skipping. There are many things we're not taking into considerations. And I think as we were talking about debit card and credit card, also the policy is not really enabling some of these things. What is the landscape like from your point of view?
Thank you, David. Now, first of all, Africa is a mobile-only continent. So it's a mobile money continent. It's not a card continent that we should appreciate. Apart from Nigeria and South Africa, where they still have more than 60% of cards, the rest of Africa is a mobile and mobile money continent. Take it or leave it. Even Europe is now adapting mobile. They're now working backwards, so we're not missing anything. But the landscape. Okay, now some of the policies are BS, like a lot of, they're very annoying. Some of them are very, very annoying and frustrating for a founder, for instance, a fintech founder. I gave you an example. I still cannot afford to have a loan in any bank that is, I mean a loan that makes sense. I can borrow some 500K, maybe 3 million. But what am I going to use it for when I'm running an organization? Honestly, yeah? So the policies, from a regulatory point of view, the policies from an implementer's point of view, stakeholders are still very, very disturbing. The banks, when they sit in their associations, there are things they agree upon. And they are not very favorable for a fintech. Integrating, I mean, from 2016, we've been advocating for open APIs. And I'm sure you've noticed now there has been creation of portals, open API platforms. Or I know MTN, Airtel, and a few banks are now creating open APIs. Even NIRA is also creating the same. Because we talk to everyone, including the president, telling them in an innovation environment that we want to build. We can't build when the doors are locked for every innovator. So now, all of them are saying we have opened up our gates. Now the open APIs are available. Those of us who have tried them, you know how they work. So now we are on the next argument. They are available, but they are not working as we want them. And we shall win that, I can assure you. When I come back here, I'll tell you we won. Yeah? Why? Because now we are running our own products. We had ignored running our own products because someone would say, no, you have no reason to say they're not working. So we told them, no, guys, we are going to build ours. So we built Money Pay, and we're integrating with everyone. Now, instead of them facing you who they think they don't know, they find me who they know. And I tell them, this is not working. It is rubbish. You said it's supposed to work this way. Now they are going to begin changing. So if there are 10 of us that can do the same thing and face them the same and tell them, guys, this is not working. We have, for instance, the National Payment Systems Act. And the FinTech, CRONI and Kawooya have had challenges with getting licenses. Why? Because they told me that a kidding costs $20,000 US, right? Yeah, so you have to sell your kidding to get license for 1 year. But the kidding is gone for good. Yeah? As in, is it reasonable? I'm paying $20,000 for a license. I'll be in the regulatory sandbox for a year, where I'll pay maybe it will cost me about 3 to 5 million in total, yeah? And then after the year, when I'm not yet making money, when I've not yet found any investor, or any lead to an investor, then someone is telling me you're going to pay 25,000. So I have to get my first kidding, give it away, and then pay, and then wait for the next year before I make money, and then sell the other. So, as in, honestly, what kind of policy is that for a founder who has just left school? Laura here was showing me that there is a young 15-year-old that is having an amazing library solution. My own daughter, Emily, who is 17 years, has a FinTech called PesaJet. And Emily cannot afford. We have to give her pocket money. So, on her pocket money of 100K, how will she get 25 million to pay for a license? Like, honestly. So now policies are very many. I mean, the insurers have policies, the microfinance institutions have their own policies, the commercial banks, the fintechs, and all the likes. But we now have to begin collaborating on writing about what we want as all of us. For instance, your needs might be vague, but can we collaborate as founders and write a paper and find an avenue of publishing it and make it known to our regulators that this is what we need, so that it is easier for a regulator to come and sit here, not to come and tell us what they have done, but we ask them all through. We ask them everything that we want on record. We tell them you're coming on camera and we are going to share the video. So when they tell us and promise us they are going to do A, B, C, D, we wait for them and begin demanding. But importantly, as we speak market, I mean, for us, we brag on the fact that we created a scaled market. Today, those days when we were looking for our first 10,000 users, we couldn't have 10,000 people in Uganda that had computers those days. So today, we speak of a market where Uganda alone, where more than 7 million people use internet every month. By that time, we could speak of about 2,000, 5,000 people who could use internet every month, apart from a few students who could access computers as long as they're in a computer lab. So there is clearly growth in a market. If I have a market of about 7 million people that I'm targeting, and I just need a 5%, a 2% of it, I'm talking of more than 100,000 people that I can deal with, and a business that has 100,000 customers, by every chance it will be able to make it. Kawooya hasn't made 200,000 customers, but we are very proud of the progress. So there has been a lot of scale in market, the market has grown, so the demand is also growing. Our mobile signal is covering up to 97% of Uganda. So meaning in 97% places of the country, you can be able to use internet and call. But it is also not very true that the signal works very well. Why? Because when you walk to an ISP, they are going to tell you that they need at least 5,000 people within a geographical location of, I think, of about 3 kilometers to boost internet. That's what they're going to tell you. So someone who has been to Padel, has anyone been to Padel? Yeah? Has anyone been to Karamoja? You know Karamoja. So you'll find that in a location of 10 kilometers, there are not more than 1,000 people. And then, so when are they going to get access? Because the business of government is to say, now, we need these people to have access. So what should we do? Can we ensure they have access to affordable devices? Affordable doesn't mean very cheap. Affordability might mean ways of paying. Can they acquire a tool and pay for it over a year? And not buying a phone of 300,000 and paying 900,000, but rather maybe buy it at 300,000 and then pay maybe an increment of 40,000 shillings, but pay for it over the year as you enjoy the experience. Can we create strategic public-private partnerships and invest in infrastructure to ensure there is access to things like electricity? There are more than 7 districts in Uganda where there is no electricity. Did you know that? Yeah, so has anyone been to Zombo? So in West Nile, there is no Umeme. Yeah, there is West Nile something, electricity distribution company. There is no UEGCL and all the likes. I think as founders, one of these days, we should get a chance and travel together and see the kind of country you want to serve. See the market, yeah, and understand exactly what the dynamics are in the real market that you really intend to serve. So, electricity is still challenging for us. It's very expensive. I don't know about you, but I have a feeling that we get cheated with Umeme sometimes. Yeah. There is no standardization. The other day I was with our patron, who is a senior honorable minister, and they were saying they pay more than 400,000. 400,000, yeah. 400,000 shillings for electricity every month. And I'm like, do you have a factory at home? And someone is being cheated because they're a minister. Then another one is misusing the electricity. So as we speak environment, electricity and all that, we should think of ensuring that there is usable infrastructure. And usable meaning the market we want to have. People in the villages can afford to buy data. But then power goes off and they have to take the phone to the shop to charge. So it stays there for a whole day. So you've missed that customer for a whole day. By the time you have a product to run, they are going to sleep. And maybe they have one person they can call on WhatsApp video. So once they have called them, their data expires after 7 days and the telecom takes it and it never returns. Yeah. So with all those things that are happening, we want to now come out boldly and ask questions. Questions about what? Who should be helping us in ensuring we have electricity everywhere? What kind of electricity can serve everyone? Because it's also not very true that the government has capacity to serve all of us. Not even in America. Who should be ensuring that we have connectivity in every part of the country? But when a founder like us here gets money, okay, even if you get 10K, like we 8 hours, do you invest even $100 back in policy advocacy? Yeah, supporting someone who is helping you. I mean, do you do that? Or when you get money, it is for God and my stomach. Yeah. So someone.
Thank you so much. And also thank you so much, guys, for being such an amazing audience.